I recently had an ear canal infection
Oh
and is still recovering.
no.
And all of a sudden, centipedes in my house are crawling into my ear during the night. It's
Excuse
annoying.
me? Hello and meowdy YouTube! We are back with another video. I didn't introduce myself. I'm so bad. Hi, hello. My name is Saphwyn the Silly Ducko VTuber, and we are back with Diseases That Killed the Dinosaur by Lindsay Nikole. If you're new to my channel, I react to a lot of animal content like this. I did study biology for a very long time, and I love biology, and I love animal videos. So hi, if you're new here and that sounds like a good time, hit that like and subscribe button. I'm a cool person and lots of content on my channel. And Lindsay Nikole's video is linked down below if you want to go support her channel. Also a hella cool person. But let's dive on into the video, shall we? Meow, 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 meow. I'm kidding.
If you were to ask someone what their least favorite part of the natural world is, they would probably answer with something that has to do with disease. Malaria, cancer, COVID, etc. Diseases are everywhere and can be nearly impossible to get rid of. And as you would probably assume, they have been a component of ecosystems for millions and millions of years. A couple weeks ago, I got a comment on one of my videos asking for more information on prehistoric diseases, at least diseases before Homo sapiens. Do we have evidence of these? If so, what? Could this have led to some extinctions of species that seem to have been going well? And I thought, you know what? I've never really looked into that, but I should. I'd come across an article about a year ago of a sauropod with the sniffles, but that was about it. And I had the flu last week. I had a fever for like 3 days. And during those days that are now a blur to me, I thought, what better time than now to make this video? Maybe a bit on the nose.
This is why I love her. I love her jokes. Fantastic.
Anyway, turns out diseases have shown up in the fossil record in some pretty unusual ways, and kind of all over the map. I'm going to introduce you to a little sample platter of them, specifically during the age of the...
Wait, she just did the 6-7 movement before 6-7 was a thing. I'm so sorry, Lindsay. I apologize.
Dinosaurs. So buckle up.
Okay, buckle up.
Let's first get the general information out of the way. First off, disease is a very broad term. I genuinely can't think of anything more broad than the word disease. It refers to so many things. The simplest way to define it is something that leads to a disorder or disruption in the structure or function of an organism. And a particular disease has a particular set of symptoms and causes. It's so broad, it actually drives me nuts. And there's no way to narrow that scope down for the purpose of this video because we're all over the place today. So we're just gonna leave it at that. Within paleontology, scientists have a name for the study of diseases within fossil specimens. It's called paleopathology. Very nice, very easy. Coined in 1893 when scientists started to take a deeper look into the fractures they had once diagnosed in the bones of extinct animals. Spoiler alert, they were sometimes in fact not fractures. Only a handful of scientists...
They were probably diseases that were in the bones, huh? Weird.
Work exclusively on paleopathology. So a lot of diagnosing takes place with a group of experts from all over the map, like, you know, doctors get called in and stuff. So, and as you would probably assume, one of the easiest groups of diseases to identify in fossilized remains are diseases that affected the bones of that animal. For example, bone tumors and bone cancer.
Well, you probably couldn't. Actually, science has evolved so much in so many ways. It's hard to diagnose any probably sort of viral type disease or anything like that, but definitely if you still have all the bone fragments from fossils and you can deep dive into them. Bones tell so much in story wise and lore wise of an animal or a fossilized creature. It's crazy how much information that a bone can tell you.
Let's start off there. These are documented pretty well in the vertebrate fossil record, with the earliest documented case coming from the Carboniferous period, about 300 million years ago. A bone tumor on a red-finned fish, and another one on the jaw of a Gorgonopsian that was alive in the Permian about 255 million years ago. These earlier documented cases were benign or non-cancerous. Benign tumors seem to be older and much more common than malignant or cancerous ones, with some of the earliest cancer
my goodness. Me when science words are massive. Yes.
Examples coming from the age of the dinosaurs. Exhibit A, a dinosaur named Centrosaurus with osteosarcoma, a type of bone cancer.
No way.
It was alive about 76 million years ago in what is now Alberta, Canada. And despite the diagnosis, seems to have been killed in some sort of tropical storm/flood, along with its herd of over 1,000 individuals. And no, this is not evidence of the flood. There could have been some huge drought too, but you know, mass grave site of a massive herd in an area that likely had tropical storms, you can assume a flood. So all these fossil specimens of this whole herd have been kept at the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Canada. Considering such a large sample size, scientists decided to do a little digging. and see if they could identify anything out of the ordinary. They recognized a shin bone of a particular specimen that seemed to be a little off, and possibly displayed signs of bone cancer. A large mass at one of the ends of the bone had been previously labeled as a healed fracture, but when they compared it to a normal Centrosaurus calf bone and a human calf bone with osteosarcoma, they realized there were signs of osteosarcoma. Got some x-rays and CT scans and shit, which led to a positive diagnosis, and it was advanced. Looking at the scans, the scientists were able to trace the cancer from the knee all the way to the ankle. So it likely spread to other parts of its body, but there's just no way to know for sure with just a shin bone. So this likely would have led to the death of this individual, if not for the flood. Another case of osteosarcoma.
Crazy. I wonder now how many forms of cancer we had all the way back then. It would be inevitable to prove every single form of cancer, and almost impossible probably to, you know, come up with every single type of cancer in dinosaurs from 66 million years ago. But I'm going to be interested in seeing as research develops in this topic, because this is a new topic. This is 6 years old now. So there's so much to learn and so much to discover, and it'll be amazing to see where this industry goes and where we head from here and everything that we discover in the upcoming years.
This is actually one of the oldest cases discovered. Came from an early relative to turtles. No shell yet, called Papakellus. Absolutely darling little guy. They were alive about 240 million years ago during the Triassic and got to about 8 inches long.
Oh, look at
Scientists noticed a
him!
growth on the left femur of this fossil, found in Germany in 2013, took some micro CT scans of it, and diagnosed it with osteosarcoma. And more recently in 2021, a hadrosaur that was alive 70 million years ago was also diagnosed with osteosarcoma. Bonapartosaurus, alive in...
So bone cancer was running rampant through them. Crazy. Also, if you guys didn't know, this might be a horrifying fact. Did you know that there's some cancers that are transmissible? AKA, if you want to learn more about that, go research your Tasmanian devils from Australia, because they have a transmissible cancer, and that is why it's affecting their whole population. So if you want to go learn more about it, go Google it. Fun. It's kind of a cool topic.
What is now Argentina. The fossil was discovered in the 1980s, and at the time, scientists did notice something unusual about one of the metatarsals, i.e. foot bone, but it was thought to be a possible fracture. Turns out it wasn't. It was osteosarcoma. Once again, hadrosaurs for some reason came up a lot when it came to bone tumors and bone disease and stuff. And it wasn't just a coincidence. Authors in the Routledge Handbook of Paleontology actually mentioned that hadrosaurs seem to have some sort of predisposition to tumor growth, specifically in the late Cretaceous. Maybe due to genetic reasons or the fact that they were prey species, so they seem to get injured more frequently, but who knows? One hadrosaur in the genus Telmatosaurus was found to have a fatal...
So they were set up for failure from their genetics right away. Oh wow. You know what? They probably had a genetic cancer. That's exactly probably what they had, no?
Tumor back in 2016. It was alive about 68 million years ago in the Valley of the Dinosaurs in what is now Romania, and was about 13 feet long. When it was first discovered, researchers noticed that the jaw was kind of warped due to outgrowths, and that was determined to be caused by ameloblastoma, which is a tissue growth that mammals and reptiles still get today. They're non-cancerous, so not directly dangerous, but potentially growing to a size that could have blocked the airways or led to some sort of difficulty in proper body functioning. Another hadrosaur abnormality was a case of septic arthritis back in 2016.
Goodness.
Something that affects mammals, birds, and reptiles still today.
I feel so bad for this dinosaur. I know you were not alive. You have not been alive for a very, very, very long time, but your genetics set you up for failure from day one. I apologize, Mr. Dinosaur.
And it's caused by a joint infection, usually after some sort of injury. In this case, the arthritis was found at the joint of the radius and ulna of a 70 million year old hadrosaur in what is now New Jersey. Scientists could see without any sort of equipment that the fossil was abnormal, and then a closer look with micro CT scans revealed the joint was fused and had some bony outgrowths all over it. They were able to rule out other possible causes like cancer or osteoporosis, and the severity of it suggested that the hadrosaur was dealing with it for a long time, likely limiting its ability to walk or use its arm. All right, let's move on to something different. Like
let's move
malaria.
on.
If we had to rank diseases from favorites to least favorites, I think malaria would probably be at the bottom towards the least favorite of all time. I don't know what a favorite disease would be. I tried to look up best disease on Google, but
I don't think there really is a best disease, right? Like, it depends. Diseases affect everyone differently.
Best disease is actually a disease that affects your retinas. So I got nothing there.
That is not a good disease. A disease affecting your eye is not the best disease. Oh my goodness.
Let me know in the comments. Maybe there's one that makes you bounce really high. All right, I'm gonna shut up. Back to what I was saying. Malaria, I'm certain you're familiar with it, is a horrible disease carried by mosquitoes that can infect a variety of different vertebrate animals. For example, A malaria that infects humans kills over 400,000 people a year. There's also avian malaria that has played a major role in the extinction of many birds in Hawaii in recent decades. Different kinds of malaria have evolved to infect different vertebrate hosts and be carried by a specific Anopheline mosquito, a certain genus of mosquitoes. And some of them, out of the like 460 species, can carry malaria. Malaria was originally thought to have evolved relatively recently, like 15,000 to 8 million years ago. But a study published in 2016 by entomologist George Pointer Jr. suggests it evolved way earlier, at least 100 million years ago, with the first vertebrate hosts likely being reptiles, including the dinosaurs. By the way, George Pointer is a researcher at my alma mater, Oregon State University. OSU is consistent.
Shout out to him. If you guys didn't know either, I didn't know she was going to explain that. That's why I was waiting a little bit. Malaria is, like she said, transferred through mosquitoes. It is a life-threatening disease that is actually transmitted with a parasite. The mosquito transports the parasite to you. It's a plasmodium parasite, if you're curious to go do more research. But that is what the mosquito transports to you. And it is a super deadly disease that is still affecting the world today.
Coming out with cool research on prehistoric shit. Just banger after banger.
Banger after banger.
Okay, so what was his evidence for this? Well, Pointer and his team were able to identify an insect trapped in amber from 100 million years ago.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
That was infected with an ancient form of malaria. They were able to...
It's Jurassic Park time! This isn't Jurassic Park. What she was saying with the amber is Jurassic Park.
I've seen this one. This is a classic.
That was infected with an ancient form of malaria. They were able to identify malarial oocysts all over it, which are like part of the malaria life cycle. Only this insect was not a mosquito. It was a biting midge. So he and his team thought at the time that earlier forms of malaria were carried by biting midges, and later on, like 20 million years ago, started using mosquitoes as the vector. But then in 2019, Pointer and his team found a mosquito with the same conditions, trapped in amber from 100 million years ago, infected with an ancient form of malaria. Specific characteristics of the mosquito, like their antenna, the shape of their wings, like the veins in their wings, and the shape of their abdomen suggested this was actually an early lineage of those Anopheline mosquitoes. So the modern condition of malaria being carried by this specific mosquito genus seems to actually be ancient as well, and both biting midges and mosquitoes were carrying malaria during the age of the dinosaurs. While the ultimate cause of the extinction of the dinosaurs was obviously the asteroid that I'm going to make a video about during the History of Life series, there's lots of evidence to suggest—
Don't worry, chat, we will be starting the History of Life series too. You guys have recommended it to me. I'm just waiting for the perfect time to begin that series, since it is a massive series, but she dives down to all the eras of previous world of the history, and she breaks everything down, and it's looks amazing. I just haven't had the proper time to react to all of it, but I will be getting there, don't you worry.
That many dinosaur lineages were actually going extinct over thousands of years before the asteroid event even occurred. What those extinctions were due to could be a lot of things, but many diseases, including malaria, obviously, were emerging during this time and could have played a role. We just don't have evidence of that. All right, so what about the sniffles that I mentioned at the beginning of the video? The living relatives of dinosaurs today, i.e. birds and reptiles,
not the kiwi,
are known to suffer from the occasional case of the suds. So one could assume dinosaurs did too. But how could you possibly know for sure? Respiratory disease affects lungs and soft tissues, which obviously are very rarely preserved. Well,
correct.
Just last year in 2022, scientists described the fossil of a juvenile sauropod that seemed to have a case of air saculitis, an inflammatory respiratory disease that birds have today. The sauropod, named Dolly by scientists in 1990, was alive about 150 million years ago in what is now Montana. And the fossil includes a pretty complete skull and the first 7 neck vertebrae. So how did they know that—
That's amazing that we still have something like that. That's amazing. Oh my goodness.
Dolly got sick. Obviously, sauropods were really fucking big. Dolly, for example, would have been about 60 feet long as a juvenile. And some of the largest sauropods that we know of could get to like 130 feet long. Their necks were absolutely ridiculous. And the thought of them being able to hold up all that weight probably seems outrageous. Look at how big
they also can weigh up to 100 tons. Massive. Massive.
Bones were. Well, sauropods actually had, drumroll please, hollow bones. Yep. And a network of air sacs, like modern birds, making their necks lighter than they appear to be. Those air sacs had attachments to the vertebra in the neck, so when the air sacs got infected, it left evidence in the bones as lesions or scarring or other damage. It does the same to birds today, which have a similar setup. And that is what scientists saw when the bones were CT scanned. Clear signs of an infection that started in the air sacs and left a mark on the neck bones, and all in areas where the vertebra would have been attached to the air sacs. So it clearly points to a respiratory infection. More specifically, a type of air saculitis based.
I find it's fascinating. It really is fascinating to hear research like this. Super fascinating. Again, this was a recent study, a more recent study. This video is 2 years old. We're watching in 2026. So it is more than a couple years older now. But in the world of science, this is still a newly developed topic. And it's crazy how much research has been put into discovering these now. These are all new topics coming forward, all new research coming forward. And that's what I'm saying. Give it 5-10 years. We're going to have so much more cases. We're going to have so much more research. Probably a bunch more diseases. Going to be cool to see if we can connect the dots through diseases from way back when to nowadays diseases. See if we can find information on that. It's just really fascinating to know that we are still like discovering stuff. That's why we love science. Science is fascinating, amazing. I am biased as heck, but we love it here. And I love hearing about new research. This just gives me more research for me to go research after the video.
On the evidence. This would have given Dolly symptoms like weight loss, coughing, a runny nose, a fever, heavy breathing, and this likely caused, or at least contributed somewhat to her early death, which is sad. But luckily, Dolly's remains have given scientists some really cool insight on something that is otherwise not documented well at all in the fossil record. Another one you might not expect to show up in the fossil record is tuberculosis. That's right.
Oh, shoot.
In 2018, scientists in Poland found possible evidence of tuberculosis in a marine reptile called Pronusticosaurus. Pronusticosaurus. Alive.
You know what though? You know what's also kind of interesting? They named it Dolly the sauropod, which is fantastic. Dolly's a fantastic name. But I feel like Dolly, everyone knows Dolly the sheep. If you guys don't know Dolly the sheep, she was the first cloned sheep from adult somatic cells. The first quote-unquote successful. You can dive into that topic even more, but there's a whole bunch of history behind her. So like everyone knows Dolly as Dolly the sheep, right? And so it's interesting that we reuse the name Dolly for the sauropod. Mind you, it's kind of two different things, but I feel like Dolly is just like a scientific term almost. Like everyone knows Dolly. If you know anything about biology, anything about science, even if you don't know the lore and the depths of Dolly, you can be like, oh, Dolly, the first clone. And it's such a standard name there. I'm not hating or anything. I just find it funny that we also named a sauropod that is advancing research in diseases and dinosaurs Dolly as well.
About 245 million years ago. The fossil specimen was typical of their kind. They had flat skulls, long necks, and long, rounded teeth. But their ribs were unusual. They had lesions all over them that look similar to those that show up on the ribs of infected animals today. It mainly infects the lungs, but can also spread to other parts of the body like kidneys and even the brain, and obviously can impact the ribs. There was a list of reasons why these lesions could have been there. It might have been cancers or other infections, or maybe pneumonia, but maybe the tuberculosis caused the pneumonia. But they were able to rule those out by looking at different x-rays, histologies, CT scans. Tuberculosis seems to be the most likely cause, but this one is still technically up for debate. If it does end up being tuberculosis, this would push back the earliest case by like hundreds of millions of years.
Yep.
Before examining this fossil, the earliest record was in a marsupial from 3 million years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Big.
So if we're discovering bone cancer, tuberculosis, malaria, all these things way back when, 66 million years ago, etc., this would also push research on discoveries from 40 years ago, 40 million years ago, 30 million years ago. It would like push studies to go recheck everything else we found. Anything else that kind of seemed like suspicious almost, or like anything we thought were fractures or healed fractures, stuff like that. Now it's like, oh, maybe we should revisit them. Maybe it actually wasn't a fracture. Some sort of disease.
If true. Hopefully, we will get more answers soon. I know that talking about diseases can be a huge buzzkill. I found myself getting kind of bummed out while doing research for this video.
Well, yes.
But God, it's so cool that with the technology that we have, we can identify such small aspects of an individual's life from hundreds of millions of years ago. You know, that like connect us to them as individuals rather than groups. And who knows what we're going to be able to discover in like 5-10 years, now that we're getting an idea of what to look for.
We're overthinking the same! Oh my god. See, this is why I love Lindsay. Me and her are literally on the same brain length right now. I should mention too, if you guys don't know Lindsay Nikole, if this is your first video, she goes through all the research. She will give you all the scientific articles she's pulling from. She has a team to also assist her who also does the same thing. She makes sure she deep dives and get her facts right and with the proof. Because I know that's very important in the age of internet where anyone can be on the internet and lie when they want to lie for funsies. But if you're ever curious, she deep dives galore, and that's why I absolutely love her content.
All of this just adds to the knowledge that we have of these diseases today and could potentially move us in the right direction for, you know, different treatments or possibly cures. And that is so sick. All right, this week I'm only going to feature one question in the Q&A because it needs its own spotlight. I don't know if you were messing with me, but your tone and the detail you included makes me think you weren't. So let me just read the whole thing.
Here we go. Buckle up.
Get my phone out. Hey, Lindsay.
Jesus.
Question. On the topic of bugs getting into places they're not supposed to go, or places we humans would much prefer that they don't go, I recently had an ear canal infection and is still recovering. And all of a sudden, centipedes in my house are crawling into my ear during the night. It's annoying. It's painful. It's freaky. One of them bit me with their mandibles, so now the ear is hurting from both the infection and the venom. I've had to buy this giant earmuff thing just to sleep. So, what the fuck? The centipedes have never invaded my ears prior to this.
What?
And they have not touched my other ear before, during, and since. Did the infection lead to some sort of scent that they might have mistaken for food or whatever? Answer if you can, sister. Thanks. I have questions for you. First off.
What?
Nah. If you got centipedes infesting your ears while you sleep, I think there's a bigger issue in your house.
Have never come across a house centipede before, but I would like to know where you live, where it's just a normal occurrence.
Wait, have you guys in chat have come across a house centipede? I've come across them a couple of times. I would say I could count on my hand, maybe 6, 7 times. Used to have them in the student apartment, because you know that's the student life. But I'm curious if you guys have ever run into a house centipede.
A centipede infestation to the point where you're aware of the fact that they usually leave you alone. So you know they're usually there. They just don't usually go in your ear. And you just seem a little bit calm, you know? A little too calm. I don't have an answer for you. I'm gonna assume that it's what you said. They do like humid, dark environments, so maybe your ear is suddenly appealing to them. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know what you should do about that. I'm at a loss. So if you could get back to me with some more answers, I would very much appreciate that. If you have a weird animal you want identified or a question you want answered, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll feature it next time. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next long form video coming out next week. Check out my Patreon for our Discord server and live streams. And for now, stay curious. The world has a lot for us to learn. See ya!
The world does have a lot for us to learn. And like I said, her content is linked down below if you want to go check out her channel. And this is for you, chat, or YouTube. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, we're going to do the microbe emoji. That's like the little bacteria. I think it's green on the iPhone. It does exist. I'm not lying to you. It's a real emoji. But comment down the microbe emoji if you made it all the way to the end of this video. Remember, I do have a Patreon. If you want the uncut anime reactions, go check it out. Link down below is the best way to support the channel. And I appreciate it greatly. Like and subscribe for more science content from me when we do a whole bunch of shenanigans like this. And I will catch you guys all on the flip side. Goodbye, goodbye.